Hello, all. Welcome back. It's this day in history for August 18th, 2024. And as you know, it's not about the year, but about the day. And we have some pretty interesting stuff. Yesterday, we had a couple of celebrity birthdays, and we have other celebrity birthdays today as well. So we have some older history and um, looks like we're revisiting a couple things that we have discussed in the past. So let's get into it, shall we? Birthdays 1900. Uh, Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit, Indian political leader, born today in 1900. Oh man, got this screwed around. The first birthday was 1830. Sorry, 1830. Franz Joseph was the emperor of Austria-Hungary, who was born on this day, 1830. Now we're getting back to the 20th century. 1933, we talked about Roman Pulaski recently, and I don't recall what it was in regard to, but uh, probably anniversary of his death or something, I'm not sure. Um, but Roman Pulaski is a Polish film director born on this day, 1933. Um, Roberto Clemente, born on this day in 1934. He passed away in 1971, uh, if I recall correctly. He was one of the first Latin American baseball players um, to play in the MLB. He was born in Puerto Rico, and he was. I remember hearing his name. I remember seeing old stock footage of his, um, you know, him playing ball. So he was definitely one of the household names for American baseball. 1936. This is the year my stepdad was born. Robert Redford, American actor, American director. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Butch and Sundance Kid back in the late 70s, I believe. Um, I think he was the one that was in Legal Eagles. He was in All the President's Men. That was a movie that was about um, Woodward and Bernstein, the two reporters from the Washington Post that broke the story regarding the Watergate scandal back in, what was that, 1971, I believe it was, that implicated Nixon and eventually got Nixon. Nixon was elected, but then he eventually stepped down um, because he was about to get impeached. So, Robert Redford's been in a lot of stuff. More recently, he'd been in some of the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's been in some of the Marvel movies here more recently. He's a government bureaucrat type. 1952, we see the birth of Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze was an American actor and dancer. One thing they left out is that he actually did sing. He did release a singles track in the 80s where he actually did sing. So he was multi talented. He he passed away quite a few years ago. He got cancer. I want to say it was like a brain tumor, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was a very fast progressing cancer, and when he was diagnosed, he wasn't long for the world, and then he passed not long after. He was actually doing. Um, he had a brand new television, so I'm like he was. I don't think they may have just wrapped the first season when he passed. He might have been on. I'm not sure if they've actually finished the full season. He had a brother that looked an awful lot like him, and that has been in a lot of TV shows. Don Swayze is his name. He was in NCIS. He was in an episode of, I think he was in an episode of Hunter back in the 80s, if I remember right. But Don Swayze didn't do a whole lot of acting that I could tell. But, I mean, he was an actor. But, I mean, his brother, Patrick, he was the star. If you ever seen the original Roadhouse, the original Red Dawn, Patrick Swayze was in those movies. What else was he in? Tu Wong Fu, I think he was in that one. 1969, we see the birth of Edward Norton. Edward Norton is an American actor, writer, and producer. He actually did one of the Hulk movies, and the Hulk movie that Eric Bana was in, like, I liked it, but I mean, I also recognize that it wasn't the greatest Hulk movie, and a lot of that was because of director Ang Lee. Like, I mean, I like Ang Lee, but what he produced and what others have done since were night and day. Being a fan of the genre, it was one of those things where this is where Edward Norton actually got a lot of his writing chops from. Like, he wrote a whole new Incredible Hulk remake, and then he played the Incredible Hulk in that movie and like knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean, he's been in other movies, like I think American History X was the name of that movie. He was in another movie, I wanted to say The Heist, but I don't think that's right. But it was a movie kind of like that. He's a phenomenal actor, great actor. You know, he's just very, very talented. But happy birthday to Edward Norton. Happy birthday, Robert Redford. May Patrick Swayze and Roberto Clemente rest in peace. Now let's get back to history. This day in history. The year is 1227. 1227 AD. Genghis Khan, a warrior ruler of the Mongolian tribes. Basically what he did is like he unified all of the Mongolian tribes to be one big dynasty. And the Khans had ruled over the Mongolians for, I want to say it lasted 3 generations, maybe 4. But it is on this day in 1227 that Genghis Khan would pass away at the age of 65. In 1477, Mary of Burgundy, she married Archduke Maximilian, son of the Habsburg Emperor Ferdinand III. 1572, Henry, the Prince of Béarn, also known as Henry IV of France, he married Margaret of Valois of the French royal house. So we had a couple marriages on this day, several years apart, like almost a century apart. 1786, we're talking about the country of Iceland, and I'm probably butchering the name, but Reykjavik is the city of Reykjavik was designated as the administrative capital of Iceland. In 1896, Butch Cassidy, they had a holdout, or a place where they congregated that they went to, and I didn't write the name. I meant to write the name of the place down, but it was kind of like a meeting hole saloon where like all the outlaws, they got together or what have you. It's on this day that he was at that location, and I think it's in Wyoming somewhere, if I remember right. He proposed to organize a train robbers syndicate, which later would become his gang, the Wild Bunch. So it was Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch. Sundance Kid was part of that. I think the other guy's name was Kid Carson. I think that was his name. He was in there. But it's on this day in 1896 that they put their little gang together. 1936, so this is the year that Robert Redford is born. 1936, Federico Garcia Lorca, and I believe we've spoke about him before. He was one of the most important Spanish poets and playwrights in the 20th century. He was murdered by nationalist forces during the Spanish Civil War. So before World War II broke out, Spain, and it's one of the reasons why Spain didn't get involved in World War II, is because they pretty much had just wrapped up their civil war, where a despotic tyrant who was very friendly with Hitler won the day, and so he took over, and he actually ruled Spain until the year I was born, 1975. But so one of the reasons why they didn't get involved in World War II probably was because they're still recovering from their civil war, but it was also because Hitler actually encouraged him not to get involved, and the reason being was that should the Third Reich fail and the Nazis lose, and Hitler and his henchmen need to make an escape, they were going to use Spain as a launching point to get away, because Spain is a sovereignty. And it was a sovereignty that never got involved, so therefore the Allies couldn't touch them. So if they harbored, fugitives, as it were, unless the Allies were willing to declare war on them, they were untouchable. And there's a pretty good series, and I forget if it was A&E or if it was History Channel or I can't remember which channel it was, but they did this really good documentary on Hitler and how possible it was that he actually survived, and he got out of Germany, and there was two possible locations of how he could have done it. Going through Spain was one of them, or going through Finland, I think. Either Finland or Sweden was the other one. How he could have got out. A lot of the evidence that they produced is very circumstantial at best. Is it possible? I think so. But if you were to ask Simon Whistler, and he's a YouTuber, he has a YouTube channel, look up Simon Whistler, he totally debunked everything that they had talked about, and he kind of did it in a snarky way. I have to admit that the evidence that I saw in this documentary series was circumstantial at best, and there was a lot of questions left unanswered. They had some evidence that they just refused to show the viewing public, and which kind of was a red flag for me, unfortunately. So, I still stick to the historical narrative that Hitler died April 30th, 1945. But I also recognize that the American FBI still believe that he could have been alive, and they still believe this up to 1961. Especially since that's where Mengele was captured, was in 1961. Eichmann was captured in 1961, and so on. So these nationalist forces that I was getting at, it was these nationalist forces. They were the pro-fascist regime that ended up taking over Spain at the time, and which stayed in power until 1975, the year I was born. 1958, Russian-born American author Vladimir Nabokov, he published his controversial novel Lolita. This novel was about a middle-aged man who becomes obsessed with a 12-year-old girl. So clearly, that's kind of some, you know, tabooed, uh, you know, it that's just something, people don't talk about. That is a subject matter that is very much controversial, very much tabooed, and the that novel was published on this day in 1958. 1969, on this day in 1969, we see the end of the Woodstock Festival. It was the Woodstock Music and Art Fair. It was near Bethel, New York. It attracted 400,000 fans, and it would end on this day in 1969. If I recall right, I think it was like a 4-day event, or maybe a week or something like that. It was pretty significant. 1992, American basketball player Larry Bird. He was one of my favorites. Even though, like, over the years I've become to, like, despise any of the Boston teams, whether that's it's especially the Patriots, but the Red Sox, I like them either. What self-respecting New York Yankees fan likes the Boston Red Sox? Excuse me. But I always liked Larry Bird of the Boston Celtics. I mean, the man he led them to a lot of championships, like 4 championships, I think, in the 80s. And he was just an impressive player. I mean, I remember watching a clip of him one time where he kind of threw a Hail Mary. He was about halfway. He was at the halfway line on the court there, and the buzzer was about to go off, and he just kind of lobs just throws it up in the air. And it was just a luck random shot, but he throws the ball. It goes all the way to the end, and it actually, I believe it hit the net, nothing but net. And, like, he scored the winning point. I mean, he was just that good. He and Magic Johnson had great chemistry on the basketball court. They had a very friendly rivalry throughout their careers. But it is on this day in 1992 that Larry Bird would announce his retirement. 2008, here's where we're talking about. We've talked about this guy before. Here just real recently, 2008, facing possible impeachment, the Pakistani president, Pervez Musharraf, he resigned from office. And yesterday we talked about the Roanoke Island colony and how it had disappeared without a trace when John White returned from England after having been gone for 3 years. Well, in 1587, Virginia Dare, she was the first English colonist born in the New World. I mean, she was the first child born to English parents in the New World, but she was born on Roanoke Island there in North Carolina. In fact, they actually have a Dare County, North Carolina, and it's named after her, or at least her family anyway. Dare County, it's named after Virginia Dare. So that is actually it for this day in history for August 18th. It's been a beautiful day. We actually had an outdoor service at church today. It was our last outdoor service for the season, and we just had a great day. A couple of my friends and I, we went out and had lunch, and I'm still pretty stuffed. I mean, that was a huge nacho. I mean, it was, yeah. But great things are on the horizon. I always try to look at the positive in everything, and so that's what we're doing, is looking at the positive. So I'm gonna head home now and go do my laundry and just enjoy the rest of my day. So you guys take care, be well, be blessed, have a blessed day. We'll be back again tomorrow for August 19th, and we will do it all over again. All right, so Take care, you guys. We'll see you soon.